Hello everyone, and welcome back to another weekly episode of Ray's Starting with the Basics. Today, we're going to be going over basic maintenance on automobiles, such as your fluids, your belt, looking into your battery and your air filter. Stay tuned. Okay, so here we are underneath my hood. I got my battery right here. This is what we're going to start with. I've already shown you our fuse block underneath the actual engine compartment. So, on the left side of my battery, I have my positive terminal. On the right-hand side of my battery, I have the negative terminal. Whenever you disconnect your battery from your vehicle, you want to disconnect the positive post first, and then the negative post. The reason why you disconnect the positive post first is so that way, if while you're disconnecting your negative, if you hit a ground point and the positive is already removed, you don't complete the circuit. If you remove the negative and for some odd reason accidentally connect the positive post with your wrench to a grounding point on your vehicle, you'll arc and spark yourself and possibly electrocute yourself. You can also damage your engine control module, they call it an ECM, or your body control module, which is called a BCM. All right, so over here, I'll bring you in a little closer. This thing right here, that's actually my brake master cylinder, and this is my fluid level. So it looks pretty clear in here. You might not be able to see it, but this is where the fluid ends, and if you follow it down, you can see a little bit of a tinge color to it. That's the actual color I want. This needs to be sealed, and only put brake fluid in here. If you accidentally mix in power steering fluid for some reason, take it to the mechanic right away and get it changed out. Because if you do that, it'll actually cause issues with the seals inside of your system, and it'll cause your brakes to fail, and you have to replace all of your calipers, your brake master cylinder, give the system a good flush so you get all the stuff out of it, and start from scratch. That'll be a really expensive accidental mistake. Okay, something else to look forward to here. Right there's my engine oil cap. Just put it back here. That's where I'm looking at for my car. Battery zone over here. There's your brake master cylinder. Now I'm coming over to my oil cap. So right here, it'll actually tell me that the type is 5W20. That's 5 weight 20. All right, so that's where you put it in. You just go ahead and loose it to the left. Pull that up. If you need to add some oil, add it in. Put the cap back down. Tighten it in till you hear it click. And it's good and tight. Now you can also come to the front side right here. You got your engine oil dipstick. You pull that out, and at the bottom down there, it's gonna have, on mine, it's gonna have 2 dots. Top dot says full, the bottom dot says low. So there's the F and the L. I want to be pretty much to where that top dot is. If I'm down by the bottom dot, I need to add some oil. You can also hear your engine start to make some funny noises. It's another indication to check the oil. Okay, coming on over, this is your windshield washer fluid. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's different types of that. If you're in cold weather climates, you can get a specific type or a specific brand that'll actually help de-ice the window for you. Don't use that as your main form, but if you need a quick rinse to get underway, that's a good way to do it. Let's come back over here for a coolant or antifreeze. Of course, that's this right here. This symbol is basically telling you that when you have your engine running and it gets warm, that it will actually pressurize. So if you remove the cap when the engine is still warm, it has a possibility of serious burn damage to yourself, and it could damage other things along with it. If you follow this hose right here, this is my overflow hose, and that takes me down to my antifreeze tank. So if I want to add more antifreeze into my system, I don't add it in here. Don't add it there. Add it to this tank here. And you can see right there, it's actually got an F line, which is my full line. So if it's low, then I'll add some in there. And if it's high, you can try to pull some out, but usually you don't try to overfill it. You don't want to do that. It's a pain in the butt. But again, you add it in here. Be careful that it's cool, not hot, and then add it to the F line. And then when you heat it up and the engine cools down, it'll actually pull that extra antifreeze back into the regular system. All right, now let's move on over here easy stuff. Here we go. So this is my serpentine belt right here. I replaced this one. It looks pretty nice and pretty brand new for the most part. It's been on here for a couple of years. You're looking for in this to see if it's actually bad or not. You'll see cracks in it, and you can look on the front side and the back side. So you can see down here, these are the grooves of the serpentine belt when it goes around a pulley, or a tensioner pulley, or an idler pulley like that. Sometimes it needs the grooves, so we'll have those right there. You can look at those and see if those are cracked or split. You'll have some fraying at the ends. Same thing on the top up here. If you see that, that means your belt needs to be replaced. You have a tensioner pulley, which on my particular car is actually this bolt right here. Let's zoom back out here for you, which is that one right there. And this will actually tighten and loosen my actual belt. So I can tighten it and loosen it. So when I went to go change my alternator, which of course this is my alternator right here, it's held down by 3 bolts. I took that out thankfully from the top. It was pretty easy. Took my belt off, put my new one on, plugged everything in, put my bolts back in, fed my belt back around it, and retightened it. Okay, so that's your basic stuff. Battery, if you need to replace it, it's pretty easy. It's just a couple of bolts. Usually it's a 10 millimeter, sometimes it's an 11 millimeter. Most of those are metric for some reason. And then it's also going to have a support bracket on it, which will be easy to find. You pull the support and the box off, take those 2 undone, and then pull that out and put a new one in. You go to AutoZone. Let's see, sometimes you might be able to get them at like a Harbor Freight, Walmart, stuff like that. There's a bunch of different places you can buy batteries and alternators and car parts from. So just search around and find a place that you find is reputable and reliable. Buy the right kind of battery for your particular vehicle, which is pretty easy. Especially nowadays, your battery will have it written on the top. There you go. So this is a 600 CCA, which is cold cranking amps, and a reserve charge time of 100. And it even gives me the part number. So if I go in and I need another one, I just look for a battery that's 600 CCAs and 100 RC, and I'm good. Take you back out there. And that's an easy one to change there. We went over the antifreeze, the engine oil. The only thing special with the engine oil outside of the actual weight, which mine is a 5W20, my car is getting close to 100,000 miles, so I've probably switched over at this point to a semi-synthetic or a full synthetic. That's the only other things to pay attention to. You have traditional regular motor oil, you have a semi-synthetic, and then you have a full synthetic motor oil. And you can buy all that stuff at a regular hardware store or a mechanic store. They'll know what kind you have. A lot of their systems have it updated now, but you can look on the cap or look in your owner's manual and it'll tell you what type for your particular vehicle. We went over the windshield washer fluid, we went over the actual alternator and the serpentine belt. Another one to check that I don't see here, so I don't know how I would check it on my vehicle, I might have to do some more research, is the transmission fluid. Your transmission fluid you want to pay attention to. They say to change it usually, at least it used to be, I don't know if it changed, double checking your owner's manual for your particular vehicle. But it was about 100,000 miles is what they would normally recommend. I try to do mine about every 50,000 if I actually have the extra money to do it. And that increases the longevity of my particular transmission because it removes the metallic or the metal filings that every transmission is going to do. The more, if you build those up too much and you remove them, then you cause problems. But if you get them out of there soon enough, then your system doesn't degrade by having those filings continue to erode the inside of your system. It's kind of like having your hand blasted by sand or salt water or salt spray or a can of air or something like that. You feel it going across. Anything with some grit on it, and you'll definitely notice it if it contacts your skin. So it's kind of doing that inside of your transmission as well. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Ray Starting with the Basics. So don't forget to tune in next week, and we'll go over how to replace some windshield wipers. Thanks for tuning in.